My guest on this podcast is Terry Balckburn, someone who bought his first property at the age of 19 and now at the age of 35, just in the last couple of years, has transacted over 100 property deals. We talk about how he started business, how he built it, how he's evolved through various different strategies, but come back to the basic core strategy. And all this during the time he's been building other businesses, two of them which he exited for multi-million pounds. So let's jump straight into the podcast.
I think sales enables you to think more creatively, not be scared to ask. As simple as that sounds, some people don't do creative deals because they don't ask. They are too scared to ask, or they don't believe it works. When you're good at sales, like, I've just got a tough skin, mate. It doesn't matter if somebody says no.
It's not personal.
No, you could be giving away free Ferraris today with your product or service. Some people would still say no because they think it's too good to be true. So it's not personal. So I was saying earlier, I've went through quite a transition in my personal life. Obviously, sold the big business. We moved to a house that we still haven't finished renovating. It's just been a nightmare. Had another baby, and
this is baby number 4.
Number 4, for my sins. I don't know what I was thinking, but I love it.
Hey, I have 4 kids.
The hard work. You got 4 as well? I didn't know. I knew you had kids. I didn't know you had 4. So you know the pain and the struggle.
I'm much older now, but it's I know what you mean. Terry, at 35 years old, you've been involved in property in a few years, yet you've transacted in excess of 100 property deals. How on earth is that possible?
How is it possible? The short answer is high energy, lots of hard work, taking loads of action, belief in yourself. But I'm nothing special. I'm a lad that grew up in a rough pot in Newcastle with no silver spoon and just worked really hard, believed in myself, educated myself and took action. So that's the short answer.
What got you started in property? Because that wasn't the first line of business for you.
There wasn't a pivotal moment or a pivotal person that said you should do property. It was just, I was making good money when I was 19 because I got into sales. And I was making, as a lot of young people do when they get a bit of money, I was doing a bit of that, getting up to no good for a little while. And then I thought, I've got this money, I should really be doing something with it. So hadn't read any books, no education, podcasts and YouTube wasn't even a thing then when I was 19, 20. And I just had some money and I thought, right, I'm going to buy, the cheapest property I could find. And I was thinking about this the other day. There wasn't really a reason why. I don't know where that came from. Maybe I watched Homes Under the Hammer. Maybe it was, I don't know where I picked it up
and
from.
Sometimes in our environment, we believe it's a safe place to put money, put it in bricks and mortar.
Definitely. And my first ever property was, this will be a bit crazy for the London or the southern viewers and listeners, 14,500 was my first purchase when I was 19, which was a 2-bed terrace. Second one was 16 grand. Third one was 17.5 grand.
Wow.
But you can imagine the tenant profile. You can imagine what type of area these are in.
So you've gone for the cheapest property in the cheapest area. So almost lots of potential problems already.
Absolutely. And my thought process again, because I hadn't done any education, it was very much, I've got some money in the bank. I'm earning well. I need to do something with it. Let's buy the cheapest one. So I remember I was getting £385 per month, but that's when they used to pay direct from the government. It was obviously benefit tenants. It wasn't, don't mean to say anything negative or too harsh about these type people, but you can imagine. So I remember when I had all 3, it's 1,100 quid or whatever it was per month, no mortgage because you had to buy them cash. I thought, this is amazing. Like, I've uncovered something here. And then within a space of probably 6 months, I had a burglary, an attempted murder actually in one of the properties. Had loads of stuff go wrong. I then bought another one at auction, actually blind. That was 17.5.
Not even seeing it, just straight.
Because I went to auction for another cheap one, missed out, and I bought a different cheap one. And that was the what's the phrase? The straw that broke the camel's back. Is that the phrase? Because that was just a nightmare. Never viewed it. I remember pulling up to it when I got the keys, and this is no joke, it had a horse tied to the fence in the back garden.
Wow.
This horse didn't look very nice. It was kind of, you can imagine.
Came with a tenant.
Exactly. Gypsies in the street. It was actually a U shape, this street. I remember driving down this side of the U. Every house either side of the U was boarded up. And I was just thinking, oh my God, what have I done?
Yeah.
Went round the bend of the U. There's gypsies at the bottom,
Okay.
caravans and, you know, all sorts.
Right.
There was a burnt out car.
Okay.
And I went round the U and came back. And the only house in that entire U shape that wasn't boarded up was the one that I bought. so you can imagine.
Yeah.
And I remember it was that fourth one. And then everything started to go wrong. And I was just like, let's get these sold and let's actually rethink this. Yes. And that's actually my thought process at the start was, I'll put it in a London auction because someone might be as daft as I was to buy these properties cash blind.
Cheap, they'll think,
Exactly. So that was the strategy. Got rid of those and then moved on to other stuff.
So you sold, didn't lose money on those. You managed to sell them okay?
They pretty much washed the face. They all needed a little bit of a refurb.
Yeah.
I didn't lose any money. They pretty much
you got out of it though.
Yeah, exactly. Luckily, not too financially disadvantaged.
But property's not really been your core thing. Your business has been really what you've been focusing on, and you've exited 2 businesses, multiple millions of pounds. You've sold those for. So what business were you involved in? What was the line of work that you were doing?
So when I was 19, I got into a sales job selling life insurance for an American company. When I was 21, I got headhunted for MetLife Europe, which is again another life insurance company. Biggest building in New York City is the MetLife building.
Right.
I ran the whole northern UK for them when I was 21. Had a team of 45 people when I was 21. Just anyone who's got staff knows how challenging that is. And this is a team of 45 financial advisors who would double my age. So you can imagine how challenging that was. And then I set up my first company when I was 24.
Okay.
Which again was a life insurance brokerage.
So you figured out, actually, I'm making a company very rich here. I could be doing this for ourselves.
Absolutely. Yes. But when I was going to see a customer in their home, I was offering their range of life insurance products. But as a financial advisor, which in your called whole of market, I could access 𝗵𝗲𝗍𝗂, Zurich, Legal and General, everybody. So instead of just selling for MetLife, I could sell for everybody.
The entire marketplace.
Exactly. I could offer more to customers, get paid more money, and offer ultimately a better more holistic service. So it was a kind of a no-brainer. And the fact that I was making them all a load of money and they were holding us back because I had lots of ideas that I couldn't implement. So yeah, it was quite an easy transition for me to go from that to set up my own company. And then it kind of all blew up and spiraled and went amazingly well for years after that. So.
And then the property you continued on the side. So it was a case of taking your profits and how do I park them into property?
Absolutely. So there's a lot of intercompany loans from the business going into SPVs. And buying more and more property that way. Because again, I did enjoy it, although the first 4 didn't go to plan. It was working. I could see
that was your education into the business.
Yeah, exactly. Learn from my own sort of mistakes, I suppose. And then everyone's read it, The Rich Dad Poor Dad. That just went penny drop, light bulb moment. Right, okay, there's something here. Read Cash Flow Quadrant, and that was another one. And I was like, right, okay. So if I just ramp up the business, use that as the cash cow to get a load of money in, pay myself well, but I wasn't paying myself a huge amount. I don't live an outlandish life or anything. Pay myself enough to get by and then invest all profits over a long enough period. Then it became, I was making more from the property than I was from the business. And then you're in a good place. So
what made you think about maybe I should be doing more property amongst the other business? Because there's several businesses, like 10, 11 businesses that you're involved in right now.
There's 11 companies at the moment I'm involved in, so I'm pretty busy. But why more property? I liked it. We spoke off camera. I still love, because I am a salesman, I'm passionate and I love everything about sales. I love the exchange of fair value and all of the things and the sales psychology that comes with it. But I love the deal making, as in finding a deal, negotiating it at a price, or coming up with a creative solution where the vendor wins and I win. I love that aspect. Still to this day, I love that. That's why I still do property. So I was doing sales stuff, building the sales team, selling loads of life insurance and mortgages over here, getting the profit, and then negotiating loads of deals over here. And I was just loving my life, to be honest. It was a great period where I had loads of energy, loads of enthusiasm and youth, and I was just, everything I was doing was turning to gold. It was a great time, So
when you were selling the business, was the plan always, right, I'll spend more time in property, or was it after you'd sold the business, you're thinking, well, what do I do now?
Yeah, it was a weird one. This people might be able to relate to this. So I thought, building a business and selling it and getting a big check, I thought that was like utopia. That was like gonna be like, I'll be done, I'll be set, I can go and chill on a beach.
Yeah, live on the beach for the rest of your life.
Yeah, that's literally what I thought. And although I had loads of property at this point, this was only 2 years ago, I had a good amount of properties, 40, 50 properties at this point. I had multiple income streams. I was doing really well. I didn't necessarily need that business for income anymore.
Yes.
So you would think that once I sold that, I could go and take a step back.
Yeah, because you still had income from the properties.
From everywhere. Yeah. And plus then the big lumper. And I was like, I'll be done. We'll go on a round the world cruise. We'll have 6 months off. And honestly, hand on heart, I got the money on a Thursday.
Yeah.
And for something like 9 years prior to this, I'd done a Monday meeting with my sales team.
Okay.
I called it Motivational Mondays, and I got everyone in the room or on Zoom and motivated them, and all my friends were there. It was great. So sold the business, got the money on a Thursday. Monday comes and I was like, 10 o'clock, I haven't got my meeting.
Yeah.
And first one was all right, and I was like, oh well, is what it is, and done something else and made a few phone calls, done a bit of this, bit of that, booked a holiday and stuff. And then the following Monday, I went down to my office on Monday morning, my home office, and I was like, it's nearly 10 o'clock. And honestly, it was, so you're talking a week and a half.
Yes.
And I wobbled a little bit, and I was like, what have I done? Have I done the right thing?
Yes.
Should I have even done this? Like what?
Started questioning the decision.
Yeah, it was honestly, it was a crazy feeling. But prior to that point, I would always have said, I won't feel like that because I've got other stuff on. I get the point where if you are the business and it's your only thing and you sell it, you lose a bit of your identity.
Yes.
I get that, but I had other stuff going on and I still wobbled, and it was a mad feeling. So I had to then reinvent myself a little bit and then throw myself into other things to keep myself occupied. But yeah, it was a mad time, and selling the business was the right decision, but it wasn't what I thought. Put it that way.
You've heard the phrase, your network is your net worth, and you'll also hear it in this particular podcast as well. That's because people in property recognize the importance of being connected with other people. Property is a people business, and that's the reason I've been running a networking event for over a decade now. Each and every month we bring like-minded people together, an opportunity for you to come along and meet some of those people and also learn from other people on the stage, learn from myself as well. So make sure you book onto the next meeting. We're on the third Tuesday of every month in Birmingham. Now let's get back to the podcast. And up to that time, your property business was mostly building the portfolio, although you've done the yard sales. Really, it was about how do I buy and keep these assets for the long term. That was the intention.
Yeah.
And now we'll talk about in a moment, there's also some properties that you would sell as well. So it's a mixture now of selling and sourcing for others also as well. One of the things that many people tend to struggle with at the beginning is the ability to find and negotiate deals. And we were talking about this off camera. There's very few people that really understand the psychology of negotiating a deal. And you were telling me a lot of your deals come from estate agents that you're buying effectively on markets, in the open market for anybody to see. So how do you go about negotiating that deal and getting a favorable deal? And why would the agent give you that property versus somebody else?
Big subject, but I'll try and give as much as I can and a bit of a framework on how I do this. So a couple of things I think you've got to consider here is, like, you've got to build and you've got to start, build and nurture your relationships with estate agents. You absolutely have to do that. If you want to be a successful property investor, I truly believe that's an essential part of the puzzle, because you've got to be a man or woman of your word. You've got to do what you say. You've got to be kind. You've got to be polite. You've got to be a nice person. If you're one of them people where you agree a price with an estate agent, they then agree it with the vendor, 2 weeks before exchange, you try and chip them.
Yes.
Or you pull out of deals, or you're demanding, or you're rude to the girls on the phone. You're not going to build or nurture that relationship very well. You're going to get a bad name and reputation for yourself.
It's going to be a one-time deal.
Exactly. And if you're in this for the short term, you'll maybe get away with it. But I've got a long-term view. I want to do this, and I want to maintain and protect my relationship and my reputation with these people. So that's one thing you've got to consider. You've got to treat everybody with respect. Phrase I use with all my sales staff is treat everybody how you'd like your children to be treated. I've got 4 children. You wouldn't speak to your children badly unless they've done something wrong, maybe. But not going to bed or eating the dinner. But you get the point. So protect and build those relationships, nurture them, be kind, polite, all of that. And then in terms of why they would, put my offer forward or select me over a different investor, maybe even when I've offered less than somebody else, I think there's a combination of things here. So the framework that I teach in sales applies to whether you're selling those bottles of water, life insurance, mortgages, or properties, is see, like, listen, trust, buy. Okay, so the 5 steps. So they've got to see you first. So in the business world, that's marketing. You've got to be visible online or in person, networking events, whatever. They've got to see you first. That's making your phone call to the estate agents. Being likable. So they've got to like you, because nobody's going to sell you something or agree a deal with you if they think you're a, can I swear on this?
If you like.
One of them.
Yes.
Yeah, let's see. But you get the point.
Yes.
You've got to be visible, then you've got to be likable. So likable can just be smiling, eye contact, body language. If it's a phone call, it's your tone of voice. Because if you're speaking like this and, hi, my name's Terry, no one's going to engage with that. But if I'm like, hi, is that such and such? Hi, it's Terry Balckburn. How are you doing? Fantastic. My tone of voice injects energy, enthusiasm down the phone, and they start to like you. Then they've got to listen to you. So if you're visible and they like you, they're going to listen to what you say, which is step 3. See, like, listen, trust, buy. So the listen part is where you need to ask the right questions and say the right things in order for them to start to trust you. And when they trust you, then you're in. Yes. Then and only then will they buy. You can apply that to angel investors. They've got to see you first, know who you are. They've got to like you. They've got to listen to what you've got to say. And if you say the right things, they'll trust you. And then and only then will they invest with you.
Yes.
It's the same with direct to vendor, lease options, assisted sales, any principle, any product. It's got to follow that order.
Yes.
They're not going to invest with you if they can't see you. They're not going to invest with you if they don't like you. They're not going to invest with you if you don't think you're trustworthy or credible.
Yes.
So you can apply that to your question was about deals and about how I find them on market. It's following that framework, is being visible, likable, saying the right things, being trustworthy, and then ultimately, I had one just before, just as I put my phone over there on that sofa, someone's messages a deal, an estate agent from Newcastle, because they know I'm trustworthy, they like us, I've got a good relationship with them, and they know that if I say I'm going to buy something, I'll buy it.
Yes.
Because that's ultimately what they want.
When we talk about the estate agent's little black book, what we visualize is a little black book that exists, and they flick through it and they think, right, I'll give this deal to this person. But really, as you just explained, it's people who have gone through this process, and subconsciously they know you, they like you, they trust you, and they want to work with you because you've delivered in the past. And so it's seeing through even the very first deal when they don't know you and you've given the opportunity to that deal, see that through to build the confidence with the agent, build the trust with the agent that you are going to deliver on what you say you're going to do.
100%. And also, just to add to that, completely agree. To add to that as well, it's also about, if you're relatively new to property, I think people think that they can skip the reps, as in they think they can all of a sudden, after one phone call or one deal, have that relationship. Unfortunately, you cannot skip the years of being in the game. You just can't. And that's probably not what some people want to hear. They want the good relationship now. But there's things you can do about that. On every transaction that you do with an agent, you can be a man or a woman of your word, be honest, kind, polite, and all of that. But there's on the first part of that framework, this being visible, I would recommend, if you want to build relationships with agents, it would be a weekly phone call.
Yeah.
And being specific in your criteria. So if you're looking for 3-bedroom properties in a certain area under, let's say, 200 grand, you need to be reminding that agent, whether it's via email or phone call, that's what you're looking for.
Yes. And
you need to be, because think about how many calls an estate agent actually gets in a day. You're going to get the people who've been on some deal packaging course and they're going to sell them the dream, and the blaggers, and then you're going to get some good people. You've got to stand out. You can do that with your tone of voice. You can do that by being a little bit different, calling into the estate agents, chocolates, flowers, all these little things, go a long way. And that applies to any form of marketing as well. Being different and standing out. Well, you said it being this in the agent's subconscious. If then they find a flip that is under 200 grand, 3 bedrooms in this area, they're going to say, Saj,
Terry, you're occupying mind space, but you've got to make a deliberate effort to occupy mind space.
Definitely. And it doesn't happen overnight. And I think that's why everyone's so impatient and they want the massive success yesterday without any work. It just, you cannot skip those reps. And I think you've got to have a long-term view. And you've got to put the time in. You've just got to do it. And that's the reason why I believe I'm getting loads of deals now from agents, just for doing it since I was 19.
And when you're when the market's really slow and properties are very slow to sell, it's easier to nurture that relationship with the agents. They have more time as well, and they'll give you the time. When the market's super fast, it's active, things are moving very quickly, like say a couple of years ago, the for sale sign would go up, and 5 minutes later it's sold.
10 words, yeah.
And when the market's like that, it's much more difficult to get in and have time with the agent. So it's understanding market conditions as well, and how you can best utilize and build those relationships. But as you said, everyone starts at the beginning. Nobody starts halfway up the ladder. Everyone starts right at the beginning. And the sooner we start and nurturing and fostering those relationships, the easier it starts to become.
100%. Everyone at the top was once at the bottom, right?
Yes. And when we are looking to negotiate a deal, and when you are in front of a seller, you're speaking to the decision maker, the person that's going to make a decision based on where that conversation is going. But when you're speaking to an agent, it's like there's a third party in the middle. There's an intermediary between you and the decision maker. So how do you try and negotiate and get what you want in that situation?
Yeah, a couple of points on this. Everything I've talked about still applies, because the agent, the person in the middle, the third party, they still need to see you, like you, listen to you, trust you. Or imagine if there's 2 offers, right? Both for, let's say, 200 grand. This offer here is from someone that the agent doesn't like, and this offer is from you, who they like.
Yes.
How are they going to portray those offers to the vendor? They're obviously going to say, well, you've got 2 offers. This guy or girl, I like him for this reason. He's worked with us in the past. He's been around a while. This guy's not very nice, and he's speaking to us. They're going to push you, right?
Yes.
And that might be a scenario. It goes to best and final, or, there's multiple offers on the table. The nice person wins there, because the agent is responsible for putting those offers to the vendor ultimately. So got to be likable, got to be trustworthy, but then again, treat people how you'd want your children to be treated, and ultimately you're going to win more deals than you're going to lose.
Yes.
And another tip on this would be to email the offer. So what I'll try and encourage the agents to do is forward my email onto the vendor. Just because if you word things in a certain way, in clear language, transparent language that's easy to read, maybe put 2 offers, there's sales psychology behind this. If you present one offer, it's then a yes or a no. If you present multiple offers, it encourages dialogue, it opens up negotiation, it encourages a bit of a back and forth. So sending an offer via email that's worded nicely to the agent saying, could you send my email onto the vendor, often results in winning more deals than it does losing. So it's little things like that you can do.
Just picking up on that, what you've just shared now, I think that's really powerful, because when we are speaking through somebody, they're interpreting what you're saying and then representing that to somebody else. Whereas this way, your words are going directly to the person that you want to see and make that decision, and you can choose how you want to phrase that. Something that I've found that has worked really well for us is when we're looking for something a little bit more creative, and I'll talk to you about creative deals in a moment, is when we're making 2 offers, we'd use just one just as a contrast. So it's a case of, I could pay you cash, but it's kind of down here. Alternatively, we could do this. And so it makes the one look much more attractive. So it's not that both offers are serious. One is just to make the other one look better.
There's if you research this, or your listeners do, it's called the 𝗏𝗏𝗁 effect. So I don't know if you've heard of this. So this is where you present multiple offers and people's perception changes. So for example, if you've got a bronze, silver, gold, people a lot of the time will just go the middle, right? Because they think that the gold, especially if like the bronze is 800 quid. Well, let's use an example. Flights. So economy might be 800 quid, business class might be 2 grand, but then first class is 8 grand, right? Most people just think, well, I'd love the first class, but that's just too expensive. I'll just go in the middle. And you can do the same thing with an offer on a property, a creative deal or not. The low cash offer, nobody wants the cheap and cheerful. Nobody wants that unless they're highly motivated. Somewhere in the middle are normally, so the 𝗏𝗏𝗁 effect, the perception of how someone interprets that information changes when there's multiple options.
It's a perception of choice, where really you're kind of leading them to one location. I've not heard it present that way before, but that makes sense.
Yeah, it's sales psychology.
So let's talk about creative deals then. And so when creative deals are talking about options, lease option, assisted sales, part now, part later, vendor finance. How do you open up this kind of conversation with an agent?
So again, this is where I do quite a few of these deals, and I believe my sales background helps with this, because And, you know, just to dispel any things about sales as well, like sales, for some reason in the UK, seems to have a bit of a dirty word. It's a bit of a, isn't it? It's looked down upon.
Negative connotations associated with it, yeah.
Absolutely. And that's probably down to the double glazing salespeople, PPI, remember all them mad phone calls everyone used to get? It's got a bit of a bad rep, but I think being good at sales is a positive, certainly in my life, and you're creating a win-win for somebody. But anyway, I think sales enables you to think more creatively, not be scared to ask. As simple as that sounds, some people don't do creative deals because they don't ask. They are too scared to ask, or they don't believe it works. When you're good at sales, like, I've just got a tough skin, mate. It doesn't matter if somebody says no.
It's not personal. Yeah.
No, you could be giving away free Ferraris today with your product or service. Some people would still say no because they think it's too good to be true.
Yes.
So it's not personal. I could ask, you know, 100 people to buy a product, and someone else could ask the same 100, and one person will get more than the other. That's not because it's, do you know what I mean? It's completely down to it's not personal.
Yeah, and I think a lot of good sales is around listening skills rather than speaking. We sometimes talk about, oh, is a good salesperson because they think they talk a lot, but actually a lot of this is about listening and understanding.
So gift of the gab, I often say this is completely wrong. The people who say I've got the gift of the gab, I can sell ice to the Eskimos and all these phrases, they're not the best salespeople. 2 ears, 1 mouth, in that proportion. You should listen twice as much as you speak in a sales environment, because like what my sales training a lot of the time is you're questioning what the questions that you ask of the client, and the way that you ask it with you based on your tonality and your eye contact, body language, that gets information. You then tailor a solution, your product, to solve their problem, right? But yeah, I know we're digressing a bit, but the creative stuff.
Yes.
So so how do I do the creative stuff? I mean, I think ultimately you're finding problems, you're finding out situations that the vendor might not be able to sell, negative equity, tenants in situ, whatever their problem is. You're then just being creative, being a salesperson, and looking for, right, can I come up with a solution that solves their problem? They still win. They don't feel like they're getting done over. You feel like you're winning in whatever strategy that you have, and you're just marrying those up in an email normally. Low cash offer, creative 1, creative 2, and it's got to be a win-win. And I think the reason why I was mentioning sales is you've got to have a tough skin, because a lot of these people will say no. You know, a lot of these people will ignore the email or say things like, I don't understand, I'm not going to do this, or I want to sell it normally. If you focus on that and think, oh, well, I can't do creative stuff, that'll become your reality. But there's a great book of, I think it's called The Power of Saying No, or the Power of No. It's a call center where they target their staff on getting no's.
How many no's you can get.
Exactly. And that's the same thing. If you follow a proven process that I know you teach and I teach, like if you follow that process, you'll get no's, but if you keep going, you will eventually get a yes. Some people, it might take 10 no's, it might be 100 no's, but if you keep going and you don't quit, you'll get to the yes. And I think that's why I don't struggle at all, because I could get 1 million no's and I'd still remain positive, knowing that the 1,000,001th might be the yes.
Yes. And it is absolutely that. And I love that you've shared it in that way. And in property, there's lots of hard work, but the rewards are phenomenal. A lot of people give up before they've actually reached even the first target, because they know this is hard, or they take it personally. But you know, in a situation like this, so for example, when we're speaking to sellers, the way I tend to describe it is, look, think about it as 3 numbers. You've got a price that they want, which is the price as advertised on Rightmove. Then you've got a price that's probably acceptable to them, which they've already thought about. But then they'll have a third figure, which is the number they need, which they may not have considered. And your job is to unravel and get to that point to see how much flexibility is there in what they want. And they may not have thought about that. So for example, if let's say you're advertising your car to sell, you think this is the figure I'm asking for, but you think I'd accept this, but you probably haven't thought about what I need from the sale. And through questioning, you can get to the bottom of what is it that they really 100%. Need, and how can you wrap a solution around that. That might be creative, that might be a straightforward purchase. And ultimately, what we're looking for is for the seller to either be flexible in the price, I accept a lower price, or what we're looking for is that to be flexible in the way we put the deal together. So if it's something a little bit more creative in terms of the terms. And sometimes there's a property as advertised and it works really well as it is. There's a number of times we've overpaid for a property and you think that sounds crazy, but we think yes, but it's in a location that we know that will work really well for us and we can make very good money on it. So the fact that we've paid a little bit more doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things.
Definitely. And again, it's that analogy of where there's one property over here and someone will not go above this, but that's because their strategy.
Yes.
If they're not banking on capital appreciation, or they might not want to extend, or they might be thinking buy to let or own occupier, whereas this investor over here would pay more than that investor because he's going to make it a HMO, or he's going to do something different, or bank on the capital appreciation. That it completely, that's why property's so great, right? Because it's so diverse and you can do all these different weird and wonderful things. And everybody's strategy, everyone's access to capital, everyone's goals, deadlines, objectives are all different, which determines what you're prepared to pay or what you can or should pay for a deal. Yeah, man, love that.
And in terms of finding deals and selling them on or sourcing deals for other people, was that a transition that happened, or was that kind of part and parcel? Was it a volume of deals? What led towards doing that, i.e. just from building your own portfolio to actually maybe I can offer deals to other people as well?
Yeah, I mean, I only did sourcing for about a year, which was 2019, before all that pandemic stuff happened, and that 𝗚𝗲𝘁 it a little bit. But when in 2019, I've got a lot of contacts in financial services. I know quite a few guys in London who've got big firms of mortgage brokers and insurance brokers. We were somewhere on holiday on one of these conventions, I think it was Palma maybe. And a couple of guys were saying to us, like, you know, we definitely buy, we see what you're doing on Instagram, Terry, buying all these properties, like, we'd be interested in that. And we've also got some clients that would be interested in that. So I was like, okay, and so what does that look like? It just kind of, I didn't say I'm a sourcer, and I didn't follow the conventional go to networking and get loads of investors. I was fortunate enough to have some good contacts who had a lot of investors on the books. And I said, right, well, I'll find you some properties. They said, well, I'll pay you $4,000 for finding everyone. I was like, okay, then let's give this a go. And we sourced, I think it was 49 properties in 2019.
Wow.
I bought 16 myself because I found anyway, before 2020, to find BRR, which is what they all were, buy, refurbish, refinance, it was so easy. It was being a salesperson, a target, a KPI was 20 viewings a week, offer on them all. Yeah. Between me and one lady who I had working for us at the time, we do 20 viewings a week, offer on them all, we'll at least get one accepted every week. And that's a simple, from my simple salesperson's perspective, that's all I thought, right? Okay, so let's crack on. But I've never said I'm a deal sourcer or reached out. Obviously, if I get access to a deal from an agent and I don't want to do it personally for whatever reason or another, I've got quite a few contacts where I could say, well, do you want this? You know?
So somebody watching or listening to this right now might think, well, Terry, you're in a fortunate position. You knew people that had some money and they had clients that had money. So it's easy for you to start. But I guess the reality is they have a problem, and that problem is they need to park the cash somewhere. Definitely. It might be getting a tiny return in the bank. So when we think about problems, resolving problems, even somebody that has money has a problem that they need to invest it, park it somewhere safe, need to protect it from inflation. They need to think about long-term growth of that money. What you're doing is helping them with a solution and say, well, actually, if you invest in this property in this way. So it's thinking about it in that way that actually we can all find people that want to preserve, protect their investments, however small or large that might be.
Well, 100%. And there is, I say this to the guys that I coach, there is millions of people with millions in the bank.
Yes.
Which is a mad thought, isn't it? There's millions of people with millions in the bank. But a lot of these people with millions in the bank might be sitting in a business account. Yeah. They might not have the time or the skills or knowledge or experience to do property themselves. They've got the, like in goal achievement, in my framework that I teach, it's a triangle. There's time, money, and skills.
Yes.
So some of these people, they're very skilled in their business, whatever it is that they do, but they might not be skilled in property, as in managing refurbs, finding deals. They might be skilled and they might have the money, they just might not have the time.
Yes.
So they might not, you know, they're so busy running their other businesses and doing whatever they're doing, they just need a sourcer to solve the problem.
Yes.
So yeah, I think that there's loads of people in that boat, and property is a bit of a buzzword. It's quite cool to be a property investor now, isn't it?
Yeah. So, and in this country, property, we've always been fascinated with property for whatever reason. You know, you go over to Europe and there isn't the same climate there. People are not so fascinated about investing in property as we are in this country. In this country here, and even if someone's starting out. And you understand a model of, I can find this property, I can see how some value can be added to this, and somebody can create a good income from this. Even if you're taking that kind of model to business networking events, you'll find people that have got money, you said, sitting in the business, the bank. They might not have thought about property, but by you presenting how this can work, and you don't have to say, hey, I'm an experienced investor, I've been doing this for 20 years or whatever. It may just be, here's something I'm looking at, and here's something how you can benefit from. And that gets you started, and that gets you moving forward, because nothing beats the experience of just getting out there and doing it.
No, 100%.
What's your thoughts on location? Because you're originally from Newcastle, and you've moved to some posher parts now. And so, in terms of location, do you stick to your kind of core location? Do you invest in a region or?
Yeah. So nearly everything that I've got is northeast. So that's Newcastle, Council, Gateshead, County Durham, or Northumberland. They're the four councils in Newcastle. I wouldn't invest in Sunderland because that's a bit of a rival. Newcastle and Sunderland, you say, the football teams.
Okay.
But then I also invest in North Wales. Yeah. Because North Wales is quite close to where I live, and it's quite similar in terms of purchase price. Again, I'm fortunate enough to have contacts in that area. My partner owns an estate agent in that area, quite a big presence. So I've got a good handle on or she's got a good handle on the market and helps us sell things. So that works really well. But ultimately, I would invest anywhere as long as the numbers stack and I'm confident that I've got information, contacts, network to back it up, whether it was London, Manchester, wherever. I wouldn't just do it if the numbers worked and I had no contacts there, because what then? What happens if something goes wrong? If I had loads of contacts there, but the numbers didn't work, I wouldn't do it either. So I feel if you're going to go into an area that's not what you know, you've got to have people there as well as it's got to be a numbers-based decision. So, but yeah, I invested in the northeast, North Wales, because they're quite similar, and I've got networks and people on the ground that I can rely on and help.
The common theme seems to be comes back to people. It's all about people, relationships, whether you're buying them, whether you're converting, renovating, managing. It's all about the people and connections that you build, and that doesn't happen overnight. You take the time to build those.
Definitely.
So you're also doing some projects now where you're selling, which is not something you were doing before. Before it's about growing the portfolio. So what's got you thinking about, hey, maybe I should be renovating and selling rather than renovating and refinancing?
Yeah, so I was saying earlier, I've went through quite a transition in my personal life. Obviously, sold the big business. We moved to a house that we still haven't finished renovating. It's just been a nightmare. Had another baby. And
this is baby number 4.
Number 4, for my sins. Yeah, I don't know what I was thinking, but yeah, I love it.
Hey, I have 4 kids.
The hard way. I mean, you got 4 as well. I didn't know. I knew you had kids. I didn't know you had 4. So you know the pain and the struggle.
I'm much older now, but it's, I know what you mean.
So yeah, I just went through a big transition, and probably prior to selling the business, I'd done the odd flip if the numbers were really good. But I was very much of the mindset of buy, hold the assets, long-term view, get the cash flow in, keep building and building and building. Once you hit a certain cash flow target, once you get your 10, 20s a month, it doesn't really matter that much after that.
The lifestyle doesn't really change. You've got a certain lifestyle you want or you're aspiring to get to. And when you're regularly able to service that with the income that you're generating, then doubling that or tripling that doesn't really change your life.
No. And I kind of got past where I needed it to be, but then I kept going because I'm a salesperson. My mind is like targets. I need a line in the sand or something to aim towards. So it was 10 properties at the start, then 20, then 50. And it just keeps going.
And there's a buzz, there's a massive buzz.
Yeah, and you hit a little goal. But if you're anything like me, and I'm sure you are, if you've got a goal here, let's say if it's 20 properties, when you're on 17, 18, it's hit, you're going to get it anyway. You move it to something else. So then you don't really reward yourself. But I'm digressing. So I had my cash flow and I went through this transition, and I was very much like still active looking at deals. And I was like, well, do I really need any more cash flow? I don't. Can I really be bothered with any more HMO tenants and adding loads and loads more tenants? And I just thought, well, and then when I do the numbers on any particular deal, I started to look at, right, well, if I flip, because BRR and flips, it's quite a similar bit of criteria to find them, right?
At the beginning, yes.
So I was kind of thinking, right, well, I could make 30, 40 selling it now. How long would it take to make 30, 40 grand if I was to rent it?
From rental profit.
Yeah, so that's normally can be 4 years, 6 years, 10 years in some cases. And I was like, well, if I just do one of these every couple of months, like I'm going to make a lot more money than if I bought a rental every month.
Yes.
So it was kind of just that transition, and I was kind of thinking, I don't want any more hassle. I've reduced my staff count massively. At the height of it, when I was 33, there was about 160 odd staff across every business that I was involved in. The glamping site, the cafe, the bar, restaurant, the hotels, the insurance brokers. It was, I don't know how I was doing it. Looking back, I do not know. But I think I was just conditioned to the stress. But yeah, to answer your question, when I do the maths now, I look at it, right, well, if I sell it, how much will I make against how long will it take to make that on rent? And a lot of the time it makes a lot more sense to just flip it on.
And I like the model of being able to sell some and keep some, where we like to keep just the high cash flow ones that produce really good income, and everything other than everything that doesn't fit that model, we like to sell. And in the same way, we think about actually we can get 5, 6, 10 years profit in one go. We should do that.
And a lot of the time that's not even considering any voids, tenant issues or maintenance. You know, so a lot of the time you might work it out and it's 6 years, but it might be 7 or 8 if you get an issue. But I really like getting the lumps of capital in addition to the regular that comes in. And something that I've just started to do just recently actually is every time we sell something, just 5% of the net profit, the proper net, actual net, is me and the missus go and do something, spa day, weekend away, holiday, just because it, you know, why not?
I think we tend to be terrible at rewarding ourselves, especially when you're very driven and very focused. You kind of get your head down and you kind of carry on, and you don't take time to reflect on how far you may have come in that journey as well.
And you should do, because it's like delayed gratification, isn't it? When you're doing rentals, it's always, you never feel like you're getting rich, you never feel like you're hugely benefiting, because generally by the time you refinance something, it's straight back out into the next one, and you're just on that cycle
rich
of
cash poor.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, so it's, but I'm really enjoying the flips. I'm going to probably continue to do this and forever, I think, because it's I'm getting more of the buzz of the deal making side, which is what I love. And it's still a definite buzz where you sell it, you get an offer, and then you get an offer that maybe isn't what you want, and you negotiate with the buyer. It's still, you're getting 2 buzzes, aren't you, opposed to the one on like a rental. And that's what I absolutely thrive for. So I'm going to continue to do these, and I might think differently in a couple of years, but that's the way I think right now.
So you've done buy-to-lets, you've done flipping property, but you've, as you touched on a few moments ago, there's other things that you've been involved in, such as your service accommodation, hotels and things. So tell me about what took you through that transition of moving into other businesses, which are all completely different in my mind.
Yeah. Probably to my detriment. I thought, like, again, there was a point where, not in an arrogant way, but I did think, like, I have the Midas touch. Everything I do turns to gold. Like, it was a little bit like that, because I was just setting up businesses that would just explode. And every time I was buying property, I was just making money. It was just amazing. Like, it was a great place. So I maybe got a little bit overconfident, and then I started to think, right, well, a hotel's no different to a cottage that I put on Airbnb, but it definitely is. Bars and restaurants are no different to hotels, but they definitely are. You've got to sell a lot of food and a lot of drink to make any money. Staff are a real challenge. So it just kind of spiraled. It was buy-to-lets, then it was HMOs, then it was Airbnbs, as in your service accommodation, your flats, apartments, city centre, or your holiday cottages. Then that went to the hotels. And then that went to a bigger hotel, which had a bar and restaurant in. Then it went to a cafe and a glamping site. And then this was all came to a head around about this transition time when I had the baby, sold the business, had loads of stress in my life, and I was like, let's just start selling things now and making my life easier. Because probably prior to that, looking back, I was literally of the view of more businesses, more staff equals more money, more success, and that's going to make me happier. But in reality, that's not the case. It just because it was going, that maybe is the case if it's going well. But when it doesn't go well, that's a disaster. When you're getting hit from multiple angles at multiple businesses, interest rates, the Liz Truss situation happened, all of that happened. It was just a big mixture. of stress and hassle, and I was like, okay, well, something's got to change now. And then I pivoted to get rid of a lot of it.
It's really interesting that you've gone through that journey. Many people feel they have to go through that journey. Well, I've got to go from bike heads, then I've got to start flipping, then I've got to start doing something bigger, HMOs or developments, etc., etc. But actually, you don't necessarily need to go along that journey. You can pick and choose what you want to do and stick to that. So it's interesting you've kind of gone through that journey and said, actually, you know what, I enjoy flipping.
Definitely. Go back to the smaller deals and volume of deals. And you've just made us remember something. One of my contacts in London who's got a financial firm, I nearly done a big conversion years ago, and I've still never done a big conversion as in the office block or something and chopped it into flats. But this guy said to me, he went, don't do it, Terry. He said, you're far better doing the smaller deals in volume.
Yes.
And I was just like you rightly said, I was very much of the view of, well, I start off with the small ones and you work it up to the big, huge developments and you build 100 houses and all this. But in his rationale was, I think it was 12 or 20 odd units, whatever it was that he'd experienced. He said, you go through a year of planning, a year of build, sometimes longer. And then he said, if your exit is sell, you don't get paid until you sell the last 1 or 2 units.
Yes.
And he said, you can go through 2, 3, God knows how long for these bigger developments, years worth of stress and hassle and feeling skin because all your money's in a project to then maybe get the profit on the last two units. And I was thinking about, well, even if it was a 2-year project, how many deals could I do? And I was doing a deal a month at that point. I was like, well, I could do 24 BRRs.
Yes.
Like, it doesn't make any sense. So that's why I've personally avoided the big stuff. But you're completely right. Everyone thinks they should go on that journey when you don't necessarily have to.
Bigger isn't always better, as we were talking about this bit off camera. And, you know, sometimes as you grow, your whole business model expands, your staffing, your overheads, everything increases. And you got to think, at the end of the day, how much pain, stress, headache am I committing at time to this project versus my return? And actually, could I get a similar or slightly lower return with way less headache and probably make way more time back as well?
100%. There's that great graph that you've probably seen online where there's a graph and there's a line of business here, and you go up to a certain point where you're sometimes better off staying there, but in order to get that next point, you have to, it dips because you have to invest in the staff and system to get to that next one. But sometimes there's a strong argument to say sometimes just before the dip, you could just keep it there as a bit of a lifestyle business. It doesn't cause you much hassle. You don't need loads of staff and the big office and all the CRMs and all the nonsense, and just keeping it there. But I think certainly online, I think online actually makes this worse because you look online and you see all these successful people, and sometimes it's not even real. But a lot of the younger generation, they're looking online and they're comparing themselves against these other entrepreneurs that have maybe had a complete different
journey to get
exactly, or it might not even be real because we all know that half the time you look at these people and all you need to do is check company's house and the
fast car, the jets and stuff. You think that doesn't add up?
It's rented. But you get my point. It's and more people do as they get to that point, and actually would be great just staying there and just investing in the profits and having a good life. But because the influence from external factors or online, seeing others doing these huge things, they think, oh, well, I need more stuff. And then they go through the lull, and then sometimes they don't get out of it. So bigger is definitely not always better. Completely agree. And ultimately, you could boil this all down to your objectives, what you actually want from life.
And that's something really you should be thinking about right at the beginning and be reflecting on that through 100%. The journey as well. As you said, it's very easy just to fall into the trap. I've just got to keep going, keep doing more, got to keep making it bigger. Whereas actually think about what ultimately am I trying to achieve here and how can I do that in a more simplistic way.
100%. And focusing on, you know, the money side of it. Ultimately, it's, yes, you don't be greedy and you don't be malicious, you don't do anything untoward. But ultimately, your business is about making money. And if every bit of money that's coming in, you're just reinvesting in staff and looking good online, or because you want the big ego office, like that's not what business is about. Business is about making money for you and your family to have a good life. It's not creating loads of stress and hassle, and sometimes even less money when you get the stress and hassle as well, isn't it? And I think that this hustle culture, this sort of growth mindset thing, it's definitely got its negatives. For sure. So
you've seen probably a huge amount of change over the years as well. So before we finish, tell me, how do you see the property market evolving in the coming years and the opportunities?
Good question. I was asked about this not that long ago about AI. Will AI impact or change the property sector? It depends on how far down the rabbit hole you want to go with this, right? But I think there will be a time where, you know, deal source, as we talked about property filter as well earlier.
Yes.
Is there going to be an AI that could probably create this now that could, in an instant, based on the deals that you've done in the past, based on your criteria, scrape everything and instantly provide a deal that meets your criteria, that based on data is going to go up, based on data is going to have margin in it, whatever your bits of criteria. I think if a software and AI, if something that'll be created soon, I'm sure.
Yes.
Can do that, then what happens to deal sources? I think there's a strong chance that might happen. I don't know when, of course, but AI is advancing at such a rate.
Yes.
Like, imagine just putting into a spreadsheet all of the deals that you've ever done that worked. Maybe it's the deals that other people have done that have worked, and that could then analyze the location, the square footage, the price point, the strategies, all of these factors that make a deal a good deal.
Yes.
And it could then scrape the data and say, well, offer on these ones. Like, that could easily happen, right? So I think that's a definite.
The technology probably exists for that to happen right now.
Right now, yeah. But if it was pushed to everybody and it was easily accessible,
yes,
like, would investors then still use deal sources if they could just click a button and say, this is what I want, scrape it all, there you go? Is there an AI that could then send an email to the estate agent saying, I'll offer this on this property and this is why? And
do it automatically for you. Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, what happened? You know, that's a bit of a mad thing, right? But in terms of people are always going to need somewhere to live.
Yeah.
There's many, many, many years in the future, there's a possible scenario where everyone works from home. Therefore, our HMO is going to be more popular because people don't need loads of space. Or they're going to live in the metaverse and do loads of a thing, or they're going to be working somewhere else. You know, so do they need a big house? You know, a lot of people seem to be having less kids now. There's a lot of that going on. So if less people are having families and they're working from home and they're doing other stuff, they're not going to need as much space. So is that going to mean demand for HMOs goes through the roof? It's a possible scenario. I don't know, but people are always going to want somewhere to live. People might be leaving the UK. There's a lot of talk of that. There's a lot of wealthy people exiting. So do us UK investors look elsewhere? Yeah. That's something that I'm potentially going to do. I don't want to live in this country forever. I'd much rather live in the sun. So that might impact it, but rates will be up and down.
The core principles are the same. It doesn't matter, where you are in the world.
Exactly. And I think there's always going to be money to be made in property. The strategy might change in the future. Probably will. Rates will change. Tenants will change. Investments will change. What people want will change. But as long as you've got your finger on the pulse and you're up to speed with everything that's going on, I think you'll ultimately win. So yeah, but who knows? But I'll always keep my foot in, I think.
Yes. I think AI and various other technology advancements are definitely going to change the property market. How it will change, exactly what it will look like, none of us really know for sure. So what we shouldn't be doing is sitting too comfortably in what we're doing and always be ready to evolve from what we're doing. As long as I think we have that open mindset and embrace new technology as it comes along and try and test different things, you'll always be able to do well.
Definitely. And you said it there, embrace and change is what so many people don't want to do. They don't, because I think as humans we don't like change, do we? We often back away, and that won't work.
Yes.
But often, there's countless examples. The Netflix, the Blockbuster thing. There's hundreds of examples where people, that's not going to work. Because this is what's always worked in the past. I think the speed of change is. I don't know if you listen to Stephen Bartlett's podcast in this way. He's on about the speed of how 1 year's worth of change now in 2024. So it's something crazy like, I think it's 2034 or a date in the future anyway. How much change we're experiencing in 1 year is going to be happening in a week in 10, 20 years. So what on earth is it going to be like then?
Yes.
Who knows? But I just think if you have the mindset of pushing away from change, I think that's dangerous. I think you've got to lean into change. Yeah. You just said it as well, test and measure things. Then I think if you're open-minded enough to do that and prepared to do that and intelligent enough to look, I think you're going to win regardless what goes on.
Terry, I really appreciate you taking the time to come and share your success of your journey and some things you're doing. What's the best way for somebody to connect with you if they want to reach out to you?
Probably Instagram. I'm on everything, but Instagram probably just Terry Balckburn Property, Terry_Balckburn_property. But you'll find us everywhere. Just type my name in.
We'll put that on the screen, also link in the description as well.
No, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cheers.